am back.
Yeah.
I was banished to the corner because, see, as a child, I didn't actually get to watch cartoons. I have seen several of the ones on your list, though.
Which ones?
Ren and Stimpy, which I actually saw in college on DVD when everyone else around me was stoned, and we'll just not talk about whatever state I was in. It's a great show if you are in any way altered. I highly recommend watching Ren and Stimpy.
Well, I feel bad for you because when I was like, Chris Rachel, I want you to do a 10 things topic today, she had the saddest story in the world ever to tell me. And she's like, no, you're out of luck on that one because I got to watch PBS.
It's true. It's true.
So explain this PBS story to me, because
So my grandmother had special child-rearing techniques, shall we say, when she was babysitting. And by special, I mean she told me that there were demons in the TV that would eat me. And
that's top-notch parenting.
Top-notch parenting.
Highly recommended by us. Put a
And
disclaimer.
so if I touched the TV, the demons would eat me. If I got away from the TV, the demons would eat me. And then she would, go shopping or whatever she did when she was out of the house. So sometimes she might be gone for 4 or 5 hours, and I can't touch it. I can't change it off of PBS or anything. I can see the bathroom, but I know that the demons in the TV can't see around corners because I'm 4 and I've got 4-year-old logic. And so, yeah, there were some unfortunate incidences where I really needed to pee, but Grandma wasn't back yet to banish the demons out of the television.
So you missed out on like Jim and Strawberry Shortcake and G.I. Joe and Transformers.
The
all
only
those
one that I
cartoons.
remember, the only one that I really clearly remember is Thundar the Barbarian. And the thing is, I've been informed by other people when I tell them my memory of Thundar the Barbarian, like, that's a fascinating post-apocalyptic story. Never watch the cartoon, because they're only tangentially related. So I'm not really sure where I came up with this dark, epic Thundar the Barbarian that only I ever saw, apparently.
Well, so what we're talking about today is the fact that cartoons are everywhere now, and they're just mass-produced, and they're not really thought about. Whereas back when we were kids, wait, you had a thought.
I do have a thought on that, because I think the whole idea that like being mass-produced and not that much thought is new is silly. Like the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, they cranked out a gazillion of those, and those were on the air forever.
Is an exception, because they make crappy cartoons like Scooby-Doo.
Well, oh, come on. Everybody loves
Scooby-Doo
Scooby-Doo.
is the worst
Scooby-Doo is a
cartoon.
cultural phenomenon.
What, are we dumb? Are we high? It's the same thing every episode. It's not a real monster. Let's unmask him. Oh, no, I would have got away with it if it was for these kids and their Snoopy dog. And there we go. I just ruined, spoiler alert, I ruined every episode of Scooby-Doo for you.
The point being that Hanna-Barbera did crank out a ton of cartoons, and that was well before the generation of cartoons that you're talking about.
Yeah, but most of their cartoons, like Top Cat, all those, they're all forgettable.
I think that Thundar the Barbarian was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
It was forgettable.
the only cartoon I remember he's referring to.
It's their other ones
forgettable.
like Johnny Quest and those ones before that were actually really good because they paid their attention to it. And then I blame Hanna-Barbera for what's happening today in cartoons. Honestly,
Really?
I do. They're the ones who started
Damn
mass-producing
you,
crap.
Hanna-Barbera.
Here you get Grape Ape and Magilla Gorilla and Penny Racers and Penelope Pit Stop and Top Cat and Heathcliff and all these crappy cartoons that were all just the same thing. They were just mass-produced. And I think that's what started
I'm really
this whole thing going
curious
down.
why you think it's a bad thing I had to watch PBS instead of all the things you just listed.
Because you had demons on PBS that were going to eat you,
That's
okay?
true. The demons on PBS. were
Penelope
after my
Pit
soul.
Stop wasn't coming out to kill me, okay? She wasn't going to ring me and be like, ah!
I
You
was
thought-
never real clear on exactly how the demon eating was going to go down.
So,
I didn't want to ask.
and so my point on all these cartoons is that you get some gems like,
Jim?
no, today.
Oh, I thought you were
Gems.
going to talk about how she was truly outrageous.
Truly
Truly,
outrageous.
truly outrageous.
No, like, you get some really good stuff today. Like, it takes a while for me to like Regular Show and Adventure Time, and then you get the stuff
Venture
on Adult
Brothers.
Swim, the Venture Brothers. And every now and then you'll find those good cartoons, but you have a habit of like Fox, they'll last the season, like Secret Saturdays. Great premise, crappily done. Ben 10, horrible premise, keeps coming back for more, And then Nickelodeon, and that's why, like Cartoon Network, when they started showing live action stuff, there's something wrong with that
Wait,
picture.
the Cartoon Network shows live. I don't watch the Cartoon Network because I
Yeah.
just didn't get into cartoons as a
It's
kid.
now switching over to live action stuff.
Do they know that their name is Cartoon Network? I mean, I understand that the Learning Channel had to change to TLC because there's no more learning going on there.
Oh, they got Honey Boo Boo. You learn lots from her.
Yep. And so Cartoon Network is going to be more like, we watched cartoons when we were young. Is that where you're saying it's going?
Yeah, it's kind of like that because they burnt everything out. They flooded everything.
Did they have to kill it with fire?
They had to kill it with fire. They had to hire the exorcist and right. But back when we were kids, we had Saturday mornings and then we had weekday afternoons. And those cartoons were well thought out. They were
Are
supported.
you sure this isn't based on the nostalgia of youth?
Oh,
With you
no.
talking about how good these cartoons
No.
were?
I could go back and watch these cartoons and still really enjoy them because they were fun. They were just fun. And it wasn't, okay, we're going to mass produce this for as cheap as possible. They did have to cut corners
I'm pretty sure they
because of
were
a
mass
budget.
producing them as cheaply as possible, actually.
But not to the point of which they are today. Cartoon Network has like a 2-month turnaround before something has to come out. Mm-hmm. Whereas back then, they worked at least half a year to a year before it came out, so they still had that time.
But that's just a technology difference.
Still, technology difference or not, today's cartoons suck.
So the moral of today's show is Gavin is an old man.
Yes, I remember the days when Johnny Quest was on the air, on them radio broadcast. No, seriously.
Now,
look at the quality and this, just the sheer fact of support.
I can't remember the name of it because I'm terrible with the cartoons, but the one with the Warner Brothers and all the singing?
Animaniacs.
Animaniacs, yeah.
That was a weekday afternoon cartoon that was still really fun.
Yeah, and wasn't that relatively... Okay, I only know about it because I've seen it in the afternoons with other people's children.
It's time for Animaniacs. Anyways,
yeah,
we're not going to break into karaoke today.
But the point with that is, isn't that one of... I mean, that's not something from when we were small children.
It was somewhat when we were small children.
Really?
Yes.
How liberally are you defining when you were a small child? Are you saying you grew up last Tuesday?
Middle school. Back in the DuckTales days.
I like how he's constructed it. Back in the DuckTales
days. The DuckTales days. I used
right
to jump up and down on the couch and
there.
scream the DuckTales theme at the top of my lungs. I love that show so much. But still, even then, they were just, it was a different class, a different caliber of shows.
What is it that you dislike? I mean, you're giving these very vague sort of things. What is
specifically
actively that you dislike?
I hate the fact that today's cartoons are dumb. They don't... No,
cartoons
hold on.
Have never been
I'm
brilliant.
trying to find the right words. It's geared towards a dumber market. Kids back then would still go outside and play. Today's cartoons are, we're going to explain everything on a base level because you can't think for yourself. They talk down to children instead of at the children.
When have cartoons not talked down to children?
Cartoons, when I grew up, never talked down to me. He-Man never once talked down to me. G.I. Joe never once talked down to me. Optimus Prime never, ever freaking let me down. But, you know, I can't show the experience of my son because when he puts on Cartoon Network, it's like ADD generation. They don't pay attention anymore. They don't care. It's, ooh, flash, 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 done, gone by. He can't remember what happened in the episode because he doesn't care. But when I put in a DVD of something old like G.I. Joe or Transformers, he's enthralled because there's stories. They're overarching story arcs. There's
So are you saying that everything now, like they don't do story arcs whereas they used to?
They don't do story arcs. It's like they're talking to dumb children. It's
like children are not expected to have the same intelligence level of adults that have more
not
experience
like that.
in life.
When we were kids, we weren't talked down to. We were taught.
Who were?
Oh, well, maybe DVTV here. Not a good example. We weren't talked down to as kids. You know, we were not treated like we were idiots. Today's kids are all treated like they're on sugar, that they can't think for themselves, they can't think twice.
Wait a second. I mean,
we have to get rid of all the metal playscapes because, oh no.
I've watched things like Dora the Explorer with other people's kids, and that actually seems like a nice cartoon for kids.
It's an educational cartoon. There's a difference in educational cartoon.
Are you saying there's a bad thing about educational cartoons?
Well, it's like Dora Spanglish. It's not real Spanish. It's just like El Hato sometimes. I mean, come on.
But the point is, like, you're saying all cartoons are terrible and they don't have any arcs and things along those lines. And
I guess we can't classify educational cartoons in that realm. Because that's a whole separate thing, like Blue's Clues.
Uh-huh.
Because those are geared towards,
and SpongeBob, that's another popular one, right?
Freaking
you don't
hell,
like SpongeBob.
Okay. There's something seriously wrong with that pineapple under the sea. First, it should have rotted. Second, SpongeBob...
Yeah, because cartoons are where we go to look for logic and physics.
Exactly. I like my logic. Anyways, and that's a prime example. That show is, like, geared towards kids with no attention span. And all these people buy into it because, oh, it's SpongeBob, and then everybody watches it. And it's
an entirely... SpongeBob monopoly is here to crush your children's minds.
But the problem is it's an entirely forgettable cartoon. People aren't going to be talking about it 50 years from now. They'll still be talking about G1 Transformers and G1 G.I. Joe.
I had never heard of most of the cartoons that you put on there.
Like you watch PBS with Demon TV. I mean, come on.
But I'd heard of the Smurfs. Who hasn't heard of the Smurfs?
Everyone's heard of the Smurfs.
I'm trying to remember what else was on here because there were like 3 or 4.
Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, Mask,
no,
Pirates of Dark Water. Did you hear about that one? You should look up Pirates of Dark Water. You would love it.
Whatever.
Looney Tunes.
Yes, I've heard Smurfs, Looney Tunes.
Silverhawks, Ren and Stimpy, Transformers, G.I. Joe, He-Man. So, I mean, these are cartoons that'll last.
Really? You think people are out there buying DVDs today like, children, you've got to watch these Looney Tunes because your current Looney Tunes suck?
They do. That's why they released the Looney Tunes Golden Collection that people buy up like
and not just nostalgia from people. They're like, children today, they don't get it.
You're a sourpuss when it comes to cartoons. Maybe
we
should just tie you.
Sourpuss because of you being like, every generation does this. Every single generation says, all the things the kids today, kids these days, like that's your whole rant. Your whole rant is kids these days.
No, my whole rant is filmmakers these days, cartoon animators these days. Creators these days.
Everything was better when I was a child.
Not necessarily better. Like, they didn't really do a whole lot of origin stories because you just read it on the back of a toy package and you knew everything. Mm-hmm. You know? So I just don't think the caliber of cartoons today match. And maybe you're a horrible person to have on the show because you didn't watch cartoons. Should have had Lance call in. He would have agreed with me.
So what do you think kids should be watching instead?
I think kids should be going outside instead, honestly.
Because he's not the tiniest bit curmudgeonly with any of these things.
No, I just think they should not sit in front of a TV all day and watch the same cartoons over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. I think there's a problem with demon TV babysitting, things like that happen today, and that's the biggest problem is there's no real message in these cartoons, and this is what kids are being raised on. This is what is babysitting them. This is what's teaching them, and they're being taught.
So if you want your kids to come out like me, watch Sesame Street.
And threaten with demons. I'm not going to ever forget it. I'm going to make you a TV with a demon face on it. I'm going to hide it somewhere. You're like, ah!
They finally come for my soul.
Finally.
About time, really. I've been waiting all these years.
I know. You're going to go to TV heaven where Leave It to Beaver's up there. He's like the king of everything.
And they'll be begging to go back to TV hell at that point.
TV hell's happy days. Hey.
I don't like his TV afterlife.